So today's video brings us here, the Northwest Computer Museum. Now it's not open yet, but we've been given an exclusive tour ahead of its soft opening tomorrow. Let's take a look. So I'm here with Joseph Kay, the man behind the Northwest Computer Museum, and what a great place this is. So Joe, tell us how all this started and what obstacles did you have to overcome to get where we are today? And I know it's not been plain sailing for the last 3 years, has it?
Definitely not. It started 5 years ago when I spoke to a friend of mine, Jerry. He late me saying his name, and I mentioned the idea to him, and it was just an idea. And he spoke to somebody, and by the time I realised, I'm speaking to the chief exec or deputy chief exec of Wigan Council, and I spoke to a few more people, and people were quite interested in the idea. So I thought, you know what, maybe it's something I should have a look into. So what I ended up doing first is I did a pop-up museum in Wigan Town Centre, and we were open 8 days, and in the 8 days we had 600 people coming in. And it's quite fascinating when we had it open, because we was watching the parents dragging the kids in.
Yeah.
And because they were saying, I don't want to see what you had when you was young, Dad. But the funny thing is that the parents were then dragging the kids out. So it was a pleasant experience, because it actually showed me that not only adults were getting interested in the old technology, but the kids were getting into it as well, because the games what they were playing, they were basically, you get 3 lives and then you had to get better to get the 4th life. Yeah. So they got addicted to it. Yes, we did have a few problems. Because obviously, unfortunately, COVID, we all suffered with COVID, because we lost 2 years. And this place, the mill what we was in, was shut down by the fire department due to lack of fire escape, which, to be honest with you, is quite important. Because anybody who comes here, I want them to be safe. So yeah.
What made you choose Leigh for the home of the museum?
Well, actually, originally I chose Wigan because we were given a unit, but to be honest with you, it was in the Galleries shopping centre. But the problem is that they shut it at 7 o'clock, so I couldn't open up after 7 o'clock. And we have actually got some groups of people and clubs who want to use our facilities late at night. So it became not really viable for us. And I was talking to a chap regarding this place. And this place can be open 24 hours a day. And, you know, we could actually design our unit the way we wanted to. The other thing is it's so close to the East Lancs as well. And that's it, for people to find us. It's a big plus for us.
And also the galleries in Wigan is actually being demolished as we speak.
I believe so, yes. I mean, I quite liked the galleries, but, well...
So tell us a bit more about the museum and what the public can expect to do and experience here.
One thing I wanted the museum to be is total hands-on. I didn't want to put things behind glass cabinets. Well, actually, we've got a couple behind glass cabinets, but we don't want it to be just looking and reading. We wanted it so people can actually sit down at a Commodore 64, for example, and just remember how we used to load games. Yes, it did take 20 minutes to load a game sometimes. So a lot of computers you can actually sit down at. And the other thing is that I didn't want to just show the old technology. I wanted to do some training so you can actually learn how electronics work and how they did it in the early days. One of the things which we are looking at doing, apart from working with Raspberry Pis and Arduinos, is you can actually build your own little 6502 computer.
Now, I know you have a huge collection of computers around the museum. So how did you go about sourcing all these computers? Is it mostly donations?
There's a lot of donations. I have purchased many of the machines myself over the last 5 years. But the main, there's a couple of donations what's been given to us. One was from a computer museum down in South Wales called Micro Museum. Unfortunately, the owner, Chris, he died early last year, and the family wanted the collection to go to another museum, and they chose us. So originally, we had roughly about 80 exhibits. Now we've got over 140.
Blimey.
Yeah. So we've had Manchester University donating, we've had Northampton University donating, and some people as well, you know, who've donated a lot.
Yeah. Now, I guess my viewers are chomping at the bit to see the rest of the museum. So Joe, if you'd take us round, we can see more what the museum has to offer.
Hello again. This is the body of the museum. What we've got here is we've actually got a replica of the Apple I. One of our volunteers, Gary, he's actually an electronics engineer, and he created the Apple I with similar wood what on the original one. The motherboard is exactly the same, and it works. That was the original logo of Apple in 1976.
Blimey, a bit different to what it is today.
Yes. This side is, we've actually got the ZX80. It was one of the first home computers, affordable home computers, which you could buy in 1980. And it was £99 built, or £79 where you had to build it yourself. I'm not too sure I could actually build it. This one up here is a bit of a sentimental exhibit for me, because this is the exact same model as what my school bought in 1978. So in effect, that's what started me off in computers all those years ago. Now this range here basically is from 1970. All the machines on the edges are actually all usable, so you can actually use the Apple II and the Tandy TRS-80. And we've also got the Texas Instruments. And this is one I saw many years ago in college, and I actually thought, do you know what, that's actually very nice design, because it was all in one. You didn't have to put a tape drive separate, so I quite like that. But it's actually a Tandy TRS-80 clone as well.
Right.
Now, my mum and dad bought me a computer around 81. They bought me the VIC-20. And yes, I still have fuzzy feelings when I see it. 3.5K, and just love playing games on it. I had learned a little bit of programming basic in it as well. I could never afford one of the disk drives because they were expensive.
Yeah, they're a beast, aren't they?
Oh, yes,
The old
yeah.
disk drives.
And then we've got the ZX81, which is the upgrade of the ZX80.
Yeah.
The ZX80 sold roughly around 79,000 units, where this one sold about 1.4 million units.
I almost bought one of these at Play Blackpool.
Yeah.
When I got it out of the box, I was surprised how small it was.
Yeah,
It was tiny.
yeah, it
If
is.
you put like the tape next to it, it's like for scale.
I mean, to be honest with you, I never bought the Sinclair range because I hate to say I was a Commodore man.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah. And then we end up with the Commodore 64. Now, this Commodore 64 still holds the world record of number of units sold. Some say it was about 12 million, some say it was about 17 million, so you can have a guess between them two.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, these, as I said before, is that we've got the Spectrum, and yes, still today, there's still conversations and little arguments of which computer is the best, Commodore 64 or the Spectrum 48.
I'm sort of on the fence at the moment. When I was younger, I had a Commodore 64 and my friend had a Spectrum, and we was always bickering. But since owning a Spectrum, I can appreciate the graphics and the games more now.
The machines both had advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
But if you'd bought a 64, you were loyal to 64.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we are. I mean, we were kids then. And then we've got the Aquarius computer.
And we've got this computers.
The Computer Lynx, they brought this one out roughly around the same time as the Commodore 64 because they tried to compete against Commodore 64. Unfortunately, they didn't win. It didn't sell that many and, well, sadly died a death, but it's still a good little computer.
I must admit, I've never heard of that one. And you've got the Conix Speed King there.
Oh, yeah. We're just, because we're opening up tomorrow to the public, so we're just sorting out joysticks and the exhibits, put games on so people can actually see what we had back in the days, and some business software as well. This Tatung Einstein, in 1984, I was actually starting my own little company called KC Computer Consultants, and I used that. I looked at that one to sell to businesses because it had a word processor, it had a printer, and I thought, do you know what, it'll be a perfect little computer for businesses, and it was affordable as well. Unfortunately, I got a job, and that was that end to that idea. And we've got the Toshiba MSX range. Now, what we've got on the other side, because of the utility costs and all that, we have to be limited to what we can actually switch on. Now, all the ones on the side you can use and so on, but we've also got machines in the centre, which you can actually see, which is the updates of the machines what's on the side here. Now, the MSX range are all here. We've got a fair amount of the MSX range.
Yeah, there's quite a few companies who produce the MSX.
Yeah. Now, what we've got here is we've got the Dragon 32. Now, I don't have a Dragon 64, so if anyone's got a spare Dragon 64, drop it down to us. The Dragon 64, and we've got the Tandy TRS-80 colour computer. The weird thing about these two machines, I put them together for a reason. They look identical, not the actual physical attributes, but when you switch it on, it uses the same operating system, or same basic, which is Microsoft, and the screen colour's the same, so you might start thinking, did they copy them?
Yeah.
What we've got here is we've got the BBC Micro. Little tip if you ever want to learn about what happened with BBC or Acorn, is there's a program on YouTube called Micromen, and it's an absolutely brilliant thing to watch because you can actually
is that
see.
with Martin Freeman?
That's the one, and it tells you the story of how Acorn started, because Chris Curry, who's the one who started Acorn, he actually worked for Sinclair,
Right.
and it's quite interesting.
And I've not seen this monitor since I was at school. I just remember that cub thing there.
Yeah, Cub Micro Vitec. What we've got here is the Apple II GS, which is one of the first computers to use a mouse. Basically, it was a graphical user interface. I'm not a lover of Apple, but some of the machines, in fact, a lot of the machines, what they did bring out are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But that's just personal choice. I suppose we're going back to Sinclair and Commodore again.
And speaking of Commodore,
We've got the 128. Most people who bought the 64 ended up going to the 128.
Yeah.
More memory. And to be honest with you, when you did get it, you thought, that's it. That's all the memory I ever need now. We've got the Auric range. Actually, there's two machines in the Auric. We've got the Auric 1 and we've also got the Auric Atmos. These are actually I like these machines because they're small, compact, and they're fairly powerful as well. But again, it's competing against Commodore and Sinclair, which I think Commodore and Sinclair had the market sewn up between the two.
Yeah. Are they rubber keys like the Spectrum?
Yes.
Or? Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sinclair, unfortunately, sold out to Amstrad with the Plus 2. And you can actually see the Plus 2 is very similar to the Amstrad 464. And I think the good thing about these things, I quite like them because, again, the tape drives are with the computer.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there was nothing more painful than actually putting a cassette deck and then adjusting the volume to get the game. And that took ages there. So I like that design.
I mean, with the size of the Amstrad 464, I think you could kill a man with that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah. And if you was rich enough, you could actually go for the 6128 with the disk drive. So everything was quicker and so on.
And of course, the convenient thing about the Amstrad is that you just plug straight into the monitor.
Exactly.
It's powered by the monitor.
Yeah. And again, because that's what that's what Amstrad did. Because what they wanted to do is just sell the whole bundle, monitor, cassette deck, and obviously the computer. So you weren't taking over the family's TV.
Yeah.
We've got the MTX 512, which is quite a rare machine. This is actually the computer. That is the computer.
Yeah.
That is the disk drive. That's all it is.
That's a beast.
It is.
So that's just a disk drive.
That's just the disk drive, yes.
So this looks like brushed. Is it stainless steel?
It is, yeah. I believe legend has it that the person who actually invented this got his idea from aluminium window frames.
Right.
So whether that's true or not, we'll find out. And then we've got the Tandy TRS-80 Model 3 and Model 4P. That is actually a luggable, or some people call it laptops. Then we've got the 90s range. The 90s range is basically sewn up by Commodore and Atari. So we've got the Amiga 500 going up to the 1200.
And the little 600.
Yes. Now the 600 and 1200 came in different options. One of the options is you could actually have a 2.5-inch hard drive into it.
Is that VHS for Deluxe Paint 4?
It is.
I used to use that all the time at college, doing titles for my videos and what have you.
We've got a number of Atari STs. We've actually got the small 130XE, which basically is a cut down version of its big brother, which is the 520 ST, and then even bigger, which was the 1040 ST.
Have you not managed to get hold of an Atari ST Falcon?
No, unfortunately not. So if anyone has a spare one, we also have the Mega ST as well, which was some serious computing power.
Yeah.
The beauty about the Atari, and I believe some people still use them today for the MIDI interface.
Yeah, my friend used to make music on his Atari ST with his. He used to have a sampler that he plugged into the back and used his keyboard.
It's funny because Atari was well known for MIDI interface, and the Commodore Amiga range was well known for titling, video titling.
Yeah, I used Scala 500.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, if they both joined forces around 93, 94, we could have had a good computer. Yeah. This range here, because whether you like games or not, games is what pushed technology over the decade in the 80s and 90s. Now, what we've got here is a range of consoles. The consoles starting with the old ping pong, and then they went up to, well, my favourites was the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
They had Space Invaders on that. I still have, actually, and I absolutely loved the Space Invaders. A friend of mine bought one, and every time we went to his house to have a play with it, I was on it for hours. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. And then we've got the Video G7000 by Philips. What they tried to do, it was like a console and a computer at the same time. Didn't really sell as a computer because basically there was not really that much software out for it, but as a console there was a lot of games out. Yeah. And then we've got a lot of people know this, the Mega Sega Mega Drive. So what we've tried to do with the consoles is to try and tell you a story of how it started, right up to PlayStation 1, and then the Sega Dreamcast. Now, the Sega Dreamcast was the first console it could access the internet. Yeah. So it was the actual first consoles what could do that. And then we went on to the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. Now, we've stopped it there simply because anything after that was just faster graphics and more memory and so on. So it didn't really, there's no storyline there. This is the storyline what we have. I'm sure some people would disagree with me on that, but the other thing is that if we wanted to put everything out, we'd need a bigger museum. Now, this is the start of the business range. This is the Apple computers. Now, most machines on the middle desk are actually all working, including the Osborne one, which is one of the first luggable computers.
I was going to say, I wouldn't like that on my lap for any length of time.
Yeah. Now, the story what went with this is that they brought out the Osborne Executive. Unfortunately, it didn't sell that well, and ended up taking the company down. So we now call that the Osborne effect. Right. So basically the second computer, which was more powerful, never sold and took the company down. So that has then become the Osborne effect.
Right.
This machine here, I quite like. It's the Philips one. Didn't sell that many in the UK, but it was mainly in the Netherlands. And it always reminds me of Star Wars. So see if it reminds you of Star Wars.
Like something on the Death Star.
Yeah.
Like a control deck.
Now, what we've done with the laptops is start from the earliest ones to what we have, which is one of the latest ones. Yeah. But this one, this was donated by Manchester University, which is the Macintosh Portable. In 1986, they purchased 2 of them for £5,000 each. Blimey. So if anyone wants to buy one for £5,000, there's one here. This side, we've actually got IBM computer with DOS 3.1, and it's got a 20 megabyte hard drive. And then we've got the Sirius as well. Originally, the Sirius did come with CP/M. It did change to Microsoft in the end because, as we all know, Microsoft won the war with the operating system. This one's actually quite interesting, because it was a game called Star Trek. Sorry, yes, I'm a Trek fan. This is a game which we found for this Sirius, and it's actually blew us away because, as you can hear,
this is the USS Enterprise. Her 5-year mission: to explore new worlds, seek out lost civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
And that doesn't even sound digitized.
No.
It sounds like an actual
recording.
recording.
Exactly, yeah. So whoever obviously wrote the program, he actually
When ready
did
to
something
accept
which is quite
command,
rare in
press any
games
key.
at that time. So, but yeah, it blew us away, that one. So obviously what we've got here is the IBM range, sorry, the IBM compatible range. We've got a couple of Macs in there as well, because obviously Macs were part of the business, because you know we had companies who went to PCs and other companies went to iMacs. And then on this side, we've actually got the as many as the Apple range we could get. So basically starting with the old Newton. And then the Apple range as well. What we've got in this cabinet is some development and demo equipment. A software company basically donated all the equipment to us. This one here, this is actually a development kit for a Nintendo Wii. And these are actually the demos. So as you can see, the red one hasn't got a disk drive. The green one does. So before it actually comes to market, they've got to develop the game, test the game, and then it comes out to market. We've actually got a demo Xbox, which was only sold. Well, it wasn't even sold. It was given to staff when it was in production mode, and you can't buy them. That was actually given to us by somebody who used to work for Microsoft.
Yeah.
So it's quite a rare piece for the museum. And what we've got here is basically a collection of handhelds. We've got them in a couple of places in the museum. And I wanted to display them so people can actually see what, instead of using our mobile phones, what we used to have in the 80s. I mean, this one, my mum and dad bought me many years ago, and it was absolutely brilliant. You know, but again, it's sort of like fed the thirst for more advanced games.
Yeah, and you've got Battleship at the bottom as well.
Yeah. We're opening up tomorrow. We did we've actually sold all the tickets, 60 tickets for tomorrow. Now, in the mill, we are on 4th floor, and unfortunately, a couple of days ago, the lift broke, which has actually stopped us from getting our arcade machines from my friend, the Arcade Club. They are sponsoring the 80s arcade, and they're putting about 5 or 6 machines in the original machines. So you can actually see what we used to go into in the 80s in our little arcades. Now, we've actually got a C5, and yes, it does work.
Have you ever driven it on the roads?
No. To be honest with you, I couldn't drive it because I struggled with the actual handlebars under my legs.
Right.
But yeah, it's fully working. And the sad thing is that Clive Sinclair, was ahead of his time, because if he was selling that today, he could actually rent them out in city centres, because they've got a little storage area at the back.
Yeah.
So you could actually use them in town centres, you know, where basically cars are not allowed.
Yeah.
So, which is a shame really, because I think it does actually miss the overhead, because unfortunately in our climate it does rain a bit.
Yeah.
Now, with all computers, we've got all the software. Well, not all the software, because there's plenty here titles which came out.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a big selection of titles, and so yeah, you can actually, if you wanted, you can actually put one of these on the computer and have a little play.
And of course, every game collection has to have Robocop.
Absolutely, yes. Right, what we've got in this cabinet, we've got a few machines which unfortunately they can't go out because basically they are quite valuable, and they are quite fragile as well. We've got the Commodore SX64, which I love the design, I love everything about it, but practicality, I struggle with, to be honest with you, because it was never really a business computer.
Yeah.
But do you know what? It was it works brilliantly. And then we've got the Commodore CD. I can't say
CDTV.
CDTV. That's the one. Sorry. Which, to be honest with you, that was the first one what they brought out, because what Commodore thought at the time was to have a multimedia centre under your TV.
Yeah.
And that was perfect. You could play your DVDs, you could play games, but it didn't sell very well because it was expensive, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
But what do we use now? We all use
Multimedia.
systems. Now, we've got the QL, which was Sinclair's answer to business, which basically didn't sell that well because of problems with it, especially with the micro tapes.
Yeah.
But at least he had a better keyboard on it. Now, one of the things which we are doing, it's not going to be open for tomorrow, is the 70s and 80s office, because what we're trying to do is show people, again, you can sit down at machines for office within the 70s and 80s, so you can actually see how technology changed in the business world in the 2 decades. However, because of the amount of items, what we've been donated and what we've collected, it's a bit of a storage area. Don't scream.
I think that's more of a Aladdin's cave than a storage area.
Yes. But it's something which we'll be going through and sorting out what we can use and what we can't.
Right.
What we've got here, because the museum is about information and about experiencing, but we want people to go on a journey to learn how computers work, or even to learn how to program. Just a little bugbearer. You don't code computers, you program computers.
Yeah.
Right, what we've got in here, we've actually got some of the machines which you can actually sit down at and basically use for a couple of hours if you wish to. They're all working, so you can actually the first computer which we sold in the business world was this one, which was the Amstrad 1640. This had a 10 megabyte hard drive. Actually, it came in a couple of flavors, but this particular one's got a 10 megabyte, and it works. The hard drive works, which is absolutely unique. And then we had, I wanted to put something of each manufacturer out.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've not got the space, but we've got an Atari, we've got Amstrad, we've got Commodore, and we've got Acorn. And we have actually got an Apple over there as well.
You've got an Amiga 2000 there.
What we've done in the centre, because around the sides we want people to experience electronics, so you can actually learn how to use Raspberry Pis, Arduinos and so on, even to learn how to solder as well. But we wanted to put some BBCs in where you can then go back to school days, and you've got 10 BBC computers here. Unfortunately, we've got 2 BBC Masters because we've not got enough BBC computers at the moment. But that will change, and we'll have just BBC computers and not Masters.
It's like being back at school.
That's the one, yes.
Yeah, we had these.
In the electronics, this is what we'll be using. You've got your Arduino, and you've got your Raspberry Pi, and you've got your breadboard. So you can actually start creating little electronic circuitry, and programmed or controlled by your PC. These are the people who we are actually working with. We've got Bart in the Netherlands, we've got Jason in Cambridge, we've got Falk in Germany, we've got Gary in Swindon, sorry, I forgot the names in Italy, I'll have to contact them, and we also work with the Gadget Show as well. So once you've been around the museum and spent a couple of hours in here, you can then come in here and fill yourself up with cake and coffee. And also read a couple of books from the 80s and 70s and magazines as well. Because we live in a cost of living crisis at the moment, there are many families who don't have computers. So what we've done, sponsored by Ask Platt Office Supplies Limited, they've supplied us with the printers and the desks. Basically, these computers are free to use, and printers free to use, and also the internet as well. So if you're looking for a job, come here and we'll certainly help you, because there's always somebody on hand. And finally, one of the things which we wanted to do as well, because obviously we're going to be teaching people electronics and so on, but we also want to cater for people who already do electronics. So I personally miss, I know they do it online, Maplins, I used to love going in there and have a little look around, but what we've done is we've actually done a little bit of electronic components and kits for people. One of the things which I've designed, is a little bit of a home course one with the Arduino. So when you actually open it up, you've actually got an Arduino, the parts, and obviously a breadboard, and this I actually printed on my 3D printer. But you've also got instructions as well. This is to basically doing electronics. It's just a basic course on electronics to give you an idea of how resistors work and so on, even LEDs.
Have you even got some new old stock?
Yes, we've got
Tapes?
some tapes, yes.
VHS?
Yes, VHS, because where else can you buy a VHS tape from? You even have 3-inch discs as well, which I've dropped. So yeah, you can actually come and buy whatever you need from here, including a Rarity, a Pi 400.
You've got some sealed PlayStation 2 games over there?
Yes, we've got some sealed PlayStation 2.
Those Amstrad games?
Yeah, they're Amstrad games. We've got roughly about 60 of these. We're selling them for 99 pence, just for, you know, to want a little bit of a history. And mugs. You cannot go through life without your own mug.
I've got about 50.
Now, one thing which we can actually do is I actually print my own mugs. So if somebody wants their own mug printing, we can actually do that for them. And we've also got t-shirts as well. And my wife, Helen, she actually loves playing with hammer beads. So what she's done is she's actually created some cards, or retro cards with hammer beads. There's thank you cards, congratulations, birthday cards, and so on. So yeah, we've got basically a cafe where you can have cakes and sandwiches, and obviously coffee and tea, soft drinks.
And of course, Freddos.
Oh, absolutely.
No longer 10p.
No, unfortunately not. The sad thing is I remember when they were 5 pence.
Okay, I don't think I can remember that. So, where can people find you on social media?
Basically, we've got a good presence on Facebook as well as Instagram. We also have a website which is www.nwcomputermuseum.org.uk. Actually, if you have a look at it and do the Konami codes, is it?
Konami code.
Konami codes, you'll have a nice little surprise there for you.
All right. So can people pay on the door, or is there like a reservation?
No, people can pay on the door. We're having a soft opening tomorrow, as you know. We've sold all the tickets.
Yeah.
We sold the tickets within 4 days, which surprised me. But all the other days, we open Wednesday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And yes, you can just pay on the door.
Oh, that's great. And I'm sure the biggest question on everyone's minds is, have you got an opening date in mind?
The grand opening, we're looking at the end of February, early March, because I'm trying to get a few people to come along, famous people in the retro world.
Well, I for one will be back, minus the camera, to enjoy all these rare and obscure computers for myself. So thank you, Joe and the team, for having me out to have a sneak peek at the Northwest Computer Museum. I'll put all the relevant links and info in the description down below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.